Hi everyone, it is Brian Hurlburt, and I am sitting here in my chair at Bryden Farm. You can learn more about our homesteading farm at bridenfarm.com, and that's our home in Bear River, Nova Scotia, Canada. On the wall there behind me, you see who we call Grandma Somebody, and also an old 1944 Watkins calendar that was a gift from a friend a number of years back. And I'm going to be reading some of my writing. This writing is on Medium, which is medium.com at, medium.com/at Brian Hurlburt. And I also write on Substack, and you can find that at brianhurlburt.substack.com. So memoirs of a child. If you've read the post on my list introducing Brian Hurlburt, my writing, and things to expect, you'll know that I was adopted, grew up on a farm in a fisherman's family on the shores of the North Atlantic. Here, I'll try to impart some of the thoughts, feelings, and memories from that time. A brother from another mother. And these stories on Medium have photos as well, but I'm not going to try to describe the photos. I find it interrupts the story too much. So one of my earliest memories is of one day when it was sunny and warm. I was outside playing. I had friends, but I lived on a dirt road, so usually I played alone, taking time to enjoy the views of the ocean, the green grass beneath my feet. Sorry for the movement. The smell of the spruce trees and the warmth of the sun upon my cheek. It was a humble yet fulfilling childhood. This particular day, I was outside playing near the road, possibly in the ditch. I'd not dare go near the road, even though it was little traveled dirt road. It would not be tolerated by my dad. He was in the Second World War, a Canadian Navy acting chief petty officer, and acting because the paperwork hadn't gone through yet. I remember Dad telling me and others this on many occasions. I also might paraphrase a few words. Anyway, this day I played. As I played, a boy showed up. He was just walking up the road, but stopped in to play. That never just happened. We played well, enjoyed each other's company, and had fun. It all went well until he tried to tell me he was my brother. I, of course, informed him he was not. That led to a disagreement, a fight of sorts. No punches were thrown. So, after a bit of arguing, we went in the house to ask my mom. After all, I knew who my brothers were. Some kid, even if he was older than me, wasn't going to tell me. Mom, after hearing my plight, looked at me and said, "Do you remember me telling you You were adopted? I said yes, but looking back on it, I'm not quite sure I understood. Mum continued to tell me what it meant, and that, yes, he's your brother. A brother by another mother. If you do enjoy this, you may enjoy, as I say, my writing at medium.com/at Brian Hurlburt. And I'm also writing my autobiography there, Born a Pauper, Raised a Knight. So let's read another story. I promise the next video will be better. The shaking and movement and quirkiness, well, the quirkiness is just me, but we'll get to that. Clover, marshmallows, mud pies, and cow patties. Summers were a wonderful time at my dad's farm. Some 250 acres he bought following his return from his time spent in the Canadian Navy during World War II. He later told me that people thought he was crazy, that he'd never make it work. But he did. Before I come along, Dad had 125 cattle, 300 sheep, and all the side trimmings. Perhaps that's what instilled a love of homesteading and farming in me. Perhaps it's why I work so hard here at Bryden Farm, the say in Bear River, Nova Scotia. I tell people at this point we don't have horses and we don't have cattle, but we have pigs and sheep and goats and rabbits and chickens and Muscovy ducks and gosh, who knows what else. We are open to visits, but we prefer that you let us know ahead. So, anyway, I digress. I like that word. Perhaps the reason I work so hard is I'm trying to get my late dad's approval. Or because, perhaps, just perhaps, maybe it's because I loved his farm so much. Especially in the summers when family would come. From our farmhouse that consisted of 13 or 14 rooms on 2 stories, the door opened to the west, and that western view of the sunset over the water, over the ocean, was visible from the kitchen and the living room too. That living room had nice bow windows. Outside stood a huge barn and a garage type shed where the sheep were, where he kept them in the winter and sheared them in the spring. The cows spent their winter in the barn, and not far from the barn was the chicken coop, and just to the north of that was our wood pile, which would be just to the right a bit. A laneway led between the shed and the barn and went down through the hayfield, through the pasture and up to the back field. At the lowest point along the laneway, it passed over a little trickle brook, only about a foot wide. But it ran down through the meadow where there was a patch of wild mint. Our family farm, 50 years later, there's a picture here, on medium.com/@Brian Hurlburt that you might want to see. Kind of makes me sad to see it like it is now, all grown up, full of weeds, unkempt. Of course, that's what happens when things go undone. Back in those early days, though, it was warm and inviting and delightful. When my cousin Kelly would come visit during the summers, we'd make our way down the laneway to where the mint grew in the meadow. We'd munch on the mint and the blossoms of white clover that we pretended were marshmallows. We'd munch on the marshmallow and mint and made mud pies. We didn't eat those. From the mud in the laneway with a little water from the trickle brook that run through the meadow. All the time trying to avoid the cow patties. What do you think? Another one? I was going to read you the Three Monsters of Childhood, but I think I'm going to read A Lesson in Giving. When I was a child, money was hard to come by. Still is. I had managed to get $2 whole saved in my piggy bank. Then tragedy struck. It wasn't a tragedy that struck me directly, yet it touched everyone in the community. A family had lost a home in a fire. As was the custom in the day, neighbors went around gathering a collection for the family. When they came to our house, I asked my mom if I could give my $2, all I had in my piggy bank. She said, yes, if you're really sure. It's all you have. I did. I gave my $2, all I had, to help that family. I honestly did not even know sure what family it was. Actually, I still don't. I just knew someone needed help. Funny thing is, within 2 weeks, my piggy bank had $10 in it. Those who had heard of my generosity had bestowed their generosity upon me. I don't tell you this to brag, nor to gain anything for myself. I share it simply to say that it's a principle or lesson I've learned. One of the first. When we give with a pure heart, without ulterior motives, it will always return to us over time. And again, beautiful little picture there. So I think with that, I'm going to leave you. By the way, we still sell Watkins products. And if you have any questions, you can always give me a call, 902-907-0770. And you can find me online at medium.com/@Brian Hurlburt. And also, brianhurlburt.substack.com. Hope to see you there. Have a great day, everyone.